Good afternoon, adventurers. I set out today to examine the Charisma class, Multiclass, Suite, and compare it to the Wisdom classes, because there are 4 classes based in Charisma and 4 based in Wisdom, that being the Paladin, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Bard for Charisma, and the Cleric, Druid, Ranger, and Monk for Wisdom. There are 4 of each, so why is Charisma sort of the famous multiclassing combo? I don't think I need to explain why that is. It's been talked to death over the last 10 years. It's a very strong mix of spellcasting, of smiting, defensive features from the Paladin working great with offensive blaster capabilities from the Warlock and Sorcerer especially, and support from the Bard, or some mix thereof. But why do we see fewer Wisdom classes? Do we see fewer Wisdom multi-classes? Is it because they have less blasty damage than sorcerers? Is it because they don't get to roll a bunch of d8s on a weapon attack with a Divine Smite? Maybe. That all is up to the player subjectively. But there is a lot of good that can come out of multiclassing with Wisdom classes. And that's really what this video is here to look at. Class by class, Charisma-based characters can get a lot of bonuses that benefit their whole character, between meta magic, being able to apply to any spell in the game, not just sorcerer spells, warlock invocations that can be used at will without spell slots, bard features like Bardic Inspiration and the Valor Bard's special extra attack work great for Gishes both, and the Paladin's martial weapon proficiencies, medium armor, and heavy armor if we start with Paladin at level 1. And of course, Pact of the Blade can be used to make even a Gish character single attribute dependent, needing only Charisma, and maybe a little bit of Dexterity for armor class and Constitution for hit points, but mostly Charisma. So what features do the Wisdom classes get that benefit each other in similar ways? Well, the Cleric gets support spells and Divine Order, which can get them heavy armor at level 1, and they don't even have to start at level 1 as a Cleric if they don't want to, unlike the Paladin. Channel Divinity is next, which is either Turn Undead or a cantrip level damage option, or a minor heal. A little extra healing is nice and can go a long way, but Channel Divinity is mostly for the subclasses at level 3. Radiance of the Dawn and Invoke Duplicity are both very cool for dealing area damage and doing some sneaky tactical stuff. And Guided Strike can be really helpful if we or someone else in our party has a big ol' attack they can do that we want to make sure they hit with, even if they roll really low. Druids get Primal Order, which isn't that useful if we have Cleric or Ranger levels, as it only gets Druids medium armor, but they can also get a bonus to their intelligence rolls and an extra cantrip. Wild Shape is super cool and useful, but not every character envisions themselves as a shapeshifter, so use of that may be relegated to summoning familiars, which is great. And when we use Wild Shape or a first level spell slot with that Druid feature to cast Find Familiar, we can do it without material components and with just a magic action, not the usual hour-long casting time. So we save 10 gold. Land's Aid is nice for some extra healing and damage at the same time, and Wrath of the Sea scales with Wisdom, so with only a dip in Druid, it could be useful for a melee-oriented character. Moon Druids get better Wild Shape forms, more AC, more temporary hit points than other Druids while wild-shaped, and a handful of spells that they can cast even while wild-shaped. How cool is that? Starry Form is actually really great, offering our choice of extra healing, a bonus action ranged attack that deals radiant damage, or a minimum of 10 on some of our d20 rolls, sort of like a lesser reliable talent. Monks get Martial Arts, Unarmed Defense, Unarmed Movement, Monk's Focus, and Uncanny Metabolism, all by level 2. Level 3 brings Deflect Attacks, and of course a subclass. Hand of Harm and Hand of Mercy are very neat. Shadow Arts is cool, but could be disruptive to our party. As always, be careful when casting the Darkness spell, though Shadow Monks can also move the darkness around and see through it. Elemental Attunement can be rad for any character that can benefit from some extra reach, and lets the monk choose their damage type as well, which is very cool. Open Hand Technique is pretty great, but only if we're using unarmed strikes and not weapons, and if we have enough focus to sustain it. And Rangers get spellcasting at level 1 now, very cool. Weapon mastery, expertise in a skill, a couple languages, and a fighting style all by level 2. Beastmasters get a cool pet, though if it's not the main class, its scaling probably won't hold up very well. Fey Wanderer gets extra damage to attacks, especially against multiple creatures. Gloomstalkers get a suite of stealth features and some extra psychic damage they can do a handful of times per long rest. And Hunters get to learn enemy resistances, vulnerabilities, and immunities with their Hunter's Mark, and can get either Colossus Slayer or Hordebreaker, both good offensive options. I think part of the way Charisma classes click together so well is that they're mostly casters, and the Paladin mixes very well with casters for smite reasons. Wisdom has 2 full casters and a half caster, but also has the Monk, a purely martial class. We'll circle back to them in a moment. Rangers do have some spells that work like the smites, things like Hail of Thorns and Lightning Arrow, that we use as a bonus action when we hit a creature. So those still work very well with multi-classing spell slots with a full caster. They don't get auras, though, and are overall less defensive than Paladins tend to be, though Rangers get more damage options, even though Paladins have long been seen as a strong damage dealer, a little less now that Divine Smite is a bonus action and a spell, but where Paladins get heavier armor, oh wait, that barely matters, it's only like 1 extra point of AC, and things like Lay on Hands, Rangers subclasses all get offensive features that add to their damage. Like every single one can add something to their damage. So Rangers actually end up with more direct damage upgrades and have access to damaging spells as well. For example, a Hunter Ranger can stack Colossus Slayer on Hunter's Mark, dealing an extra d6 and an extra d8 of damage on one attack per turn, and Hunter's Mark, if they have extra attacks, will keep adding damage to all those other attacks as well. Sorcerers can quicken spells, which opens up their action for cantrips or for other actions, like for example the attack action. Monks can reach a similar effect, but the other way around, now that martial arts and flurry of blows are not tied to using the attack action, we can use them as a bonus action regardless of what we're doing with our main action, which could be casting a spell. So with Druid, Cleric, or Ranger levels, we can cast a spell, use Wisdom for our spell attack roll or our save DC, and also make 1 or 2 attacks with martial arts or flurry of blows, or eventually 3 attacks with enough monk levels as a bonus action in addition to that. If we have levels in, say, Druid of the Land, of the Desert, we can cast a fireball, and then also punch someone a few times. Add to that the monk's suite of defensive abilities, and I'd say we're cooking with gas. Ignore the change in scenery, I totally didn't rearrange a bunch of stuff mid-recording. So with those things outlined, we're equipped to mash these classes together and see what we can make. A Shadow Monk 3 Gloomstalker 3 would be extremely sneaky with stealth expertise, shadow arts, and can pull some respectable damage with Dreadful Strike and Flurry of Blows. Plus, we'd get an extra 120 feet of dark vision on top of what our species gives us. A Ranger with 3 levels of War Cleric would get some great bonus action spells like Shield of Faith and Spiritual Weapon, and can even make weapon attacks as a bonus action a handful of times per day with the War Priest feature. It's a great fit for an archer or a rapier and shield type of ranger, though it won't be quite as useful for a dual wielder who's already using their bonus action. The magic weapon spell is really good now too, especially if we don't have our own magic weapon yet, and doesn't even require concentration anymore. A ranger attacking at range, with a bow, etc., can make great use of the Starry Form Druid feature, Stars Druid, making a radiant attack with their bonus actions at range while the form lasts. Similarly, a melee-focused ranger could get great use out of the Wrath of the Sea feature. That scales with Wisdom by itself, so we don't even need that many Druid levels. Monks already get bonus action attacks, so they won't benefit as much from Wrath of the Sea, but if we're playing an archer monk, like a Kensei, or using the dedicated weapon feature from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything to make a bow a monk weapon, we can use the Starry Form to get a bonus action radiant attack as well. War Priest can also give us bonus action attacks with our bow. That's if we don't want to futz with the whole key-fueled attack thing. Or in addition to it. A mix of Life Cleric and Land Druid would have not only extra healing from their healing spells, but a channel divinity that can restore life to those low on health, and a wild shape use that does damage to enemies in a small area and heals one ally as well. So it can leverage both channel divinity and wild shape to restore health to our allies. A druid with cleric levels can use channel divinity and their other features, while in wild shape they just can't cast spells. Moon druids do that the best, of course, and get a few spells they can cast, but not cleric spells. Speaking of wild shape, there is nothing in the rules that prevents a monk druid from using unarmed strikes while in wild shape. In fact, every creature can use an unarmed strike. That's just the general rule. So monks can benefit from their enhanced damage dice, extra attack, and even martial arts and flurry of blows, while they're a mouse, or a house cat, or a bird of prey. Those attacks would use the beast's dexterity, though, so we should make sure to do that math before our turn comes up in combat. Now, I could probably keep mushing up features all day, so I'd rather this video not be hours long, so let's go ahead and move on to the next point. Rangers and monks need 13 wisdom and 13 dexterity to multiclass, which opens them up to multiclassing with fighter and rogue automatically, because they also need 13 dexterity. Fighter can use strength as well, but they can also use 13 dexterity at their discretion. Rogue brings with it expertise and sneak attack, which obviously helps the damage of finesse and ranged weapons. They can, of course, mix well with Shadow Monks and Gloomstalkers, or a mix of both, like I brought up before. Once a Shadow Monk has Shadow Step, they can also teleport, get advantage on their next melee attack, which could be with a finesse weapon, and get sneak attack off of that. That is kind of like a better steady aim. Even if we don't want to move, we can technically teleport 0 feet. We just have to be in dim light or darkness to make that work. Sneak attack and or Battlemaster maneuvers can add damage to our clerics' one attack they get per turn. I still think it's unfortunate that war clerics don't get extra attack at level 6, but what can you do? Or, with enough fighter, ranger, or monk levels, you can just get extra attack anyway. Wild shape can be a very clever means to sneak into a place. After all, who's going to question a rat in a kitchen or a spider in a wine cellar somewhere? With a rogue skill set and a little creativity, there are countless infiltration possibilities. Rogues can also benefit from familiars very well, both in combat with the help action and out of combat as an aerial scout or burrowing scout even, or lookout. A druid rogue mix can also use cunning action in wild shape, potentially being a lot more mobile. A lot of beasts have more than 30 movement speed, and being able to dash as a bonus action could multiply that speed. Monks can do much the same, though hiding isn't an option for them. Dodging is, though, with a focus point. With Divine Order and Primal Order, from the Cleric and Druid respectively, it's possible to get bonuses to Arcana and either Religion or Nature, respectively, or all of the above with a multiclass of both. Add a touch of Rogue and or Ranger to get Expertise, and we can stack all those buffs on each other. The best part here is that all of the relevant features only require 1 level in their respective classes, except for Ranger's Expertise, which comes online at level 2. Even assuming Divine Order and Primal Order's bonuses to Arcana doesn't stack, which, honestly, it might, I'm unsure. A Rogue one, Cleric one, Druid one could potentially add their Intelligence, Wisdom, and Proficiency twice to their Arcana, Religion, and Nature checks. That's a lot for low level, and it will only scale up as we increase our stats and our proficiency bonus. And again, I could keep going, but I think I've made my point. I hope I've made my point. So overall, there are certainly plenty of possibilities for multiclassing among the wisdom classes, even if they might not be as obvious as the charisma ones. I do enjoy a Gish build, and mixing monk or ranger with cleric or druid certainly gets there. These classes' spells tend towards support, healing, and utility, where the charisma classes mostly lean toward damage and utility, bard notwithstanding. I started the script intending to compare more between wisdom and charisma classes and their multiclasses, but I don't really feel the need to compare them head to head. We can have both after all. So who cares if charisma mixes can do a few more points of damage with spells, or wisdom mixes can heal or buff our allies better. Plus, shortly after starting the script, I ran an AL game where 4 out of the 5 players were running wisdom multiclasses, so maybe they're not that uncommon. Anyway, that's about all I wanted to say for today. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it was informative or entertaining or useful or some mix of those things, some multiclass of those things. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and it is the wisest man who knows that he knows nothing. Have a good night. Enjoy adventuring in 2025.